Pennsylvania is starting to become a hotspot for VA home buyers. VA are veteran loans on your home. My name's Colin Boyer, your Pennsylvania and Maryland Realtor, and today I wanted to tell you a little bit about how to utilize your VA home loan when purchasing in Pennsylvania, and a little bit about how VA home loans work, since there is a lot of confusion and misinformation out there in regards to the loans in the purchasing process. So if you're watching this video, likely you know or think you can qualify for a VA home loan, and how you qualify is served in the military or actively serving in the military. If you haven't served, I'm sorry, you're not able to do it, or if your long distance cousin or your grandpa or anyone like that served, it doesn't apply to you. It's only applicable to families, meaning husband, wife, husband, vice versa. Your significant other has served in the military and you purchasing a home together. You can buy a home with a VA loan, or an individual that served in the military or is still serving. So now let's break down the very popular reasons that people utilize VA loans when they're buying a home. One is you get a much better interest rate. VA interest rates are typically better than the other mortgages like conventional FHA, and it's really useful because you're saving some money on your payment. And two is it's zero money down. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit later in the video because it's not $0 down, it's 0% down. There are still costs associated with the mortgage. Now, with a VA loan, there are some requirements. You have credit score requirements that do fluctuate. Typically, if you're around 600 or above on your credit score, they can get you approved, and we have gotten people approved for lower than the 600 score. I think it can go down to maybe around 580, but I might be wrong there. So we can get you connected with one of our local mortgage lenders if you want to verify. Another thing to know is I have a ton of clients that come to me and they want to use Veterans United, Navy Federal, or something like that because they feel like they're the only ones or the only ones who really know about VA home loans. I want to tell you that's not true. And from my experience, and a lot of my clients will tell you the exact same thing, Navy Federal and Veterans United can be much harder to work with than the local VA lenders in our area. They don't always get our taxes right. They are much harder to reach. Typically, they're not local, so they don't know the market. They are not the only, verified people that can help you get a VA loan, and I would much rather prefer and recommend if our clients would talk to somebody local because they know the ins and out of the market, the requirements, and our local taxes, and they're much easier to reach. A lot of these big box mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders, they make it more difficult. Unfortunately, our clients typically end up paying more when they're working with them versus some of our local lenders. So let's talk about when you're going through and buying with a VA loan, what some of the requirements are for that need to be in your offer. So one, you're going to need a termite inspection. No matter what, you need a termite inspection. So they need to have an inspector go in and verify that there's no termites on the property. If you are buying a home that is on a well, which means it's not public water, and you're buying something that has private water, aka a well on the property, then you need to also have the water tested. So you're going to have your VA termite inspection, your VA water test that's going to verify everything that's needed there, and you're also going to have a VA appraisal. A lot of the times clients think that it's a VA inspection. That's not true. It's a VA appraisal. You have the right to ask for a home inspection, but you need and are required to have a VA home appraisal. What that VA home appraisal is going to do is they are going to go in and one, make sure the property's worth what you're paying for it. So if you're under contract for $250,000, $250,000, they want to verify that the property is worth $250,000 so they can give you the money on it. And they're going to see if there's anything that there is going to need done to meet VA standards. Some of those things might be on one of the last properties that I was representing the seller, when a VA home buyer was purchasing it from my seller. They needed a handrail. They needed to fix some of the cracks in the sidewalk because they were really, really steep. There's other things like no chipping paint, no knob and tube wiring. There's a lot of things that are typically smaller stuff that the VA is going to call out, just making sure it's a safe and habitable home for the person that's purchasing it using their VA home loan. So those are some of the things there. Now let's talk about the whole financing aspect of it. I want to touch on what you have to put down on the property. Is there a way to waive your taxes on the property? And what you have to do for the initial deposit. So talking on the initial deposit, we've had clients come to us that expect they don't have to put anything at all down or invest any money on a property before purchasing it. That's not true. You are still having to be required to put down a good faith deposit because you're not going to find any seller that is going to accept your offer without putting a deposit down, because then you have no skin in the game. In our area, it very widely ranges between a bunch of different numbers for good faith deposits. That is an amount that's due within 5 days of your offer getting accepted on a home, typically. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's right away. I am most commonly seeing anything from 1% and above, so it ranges a lot. If we're in a competing situation, then obviously you want to do higher because then it looks like you have more skin in the game. That amount gets put towards whatever your closing costs and down payment are, and if it's a overage of what you're putting down at settlement, you actually get that money back, which is very nice. Let's now talk about your down payment and closing costs. The VA minimum down payment is 0%. So you're not having to actually put any money down on the property. That's not a requirement though. You can if you want, and if you want to get your payment lower. There's reasons some people do. One of my clients who just moved up from Texas and moved to Pennsylvania, he actually found me from watching these videos, so that's super cool. He put down, I think, or in the contract, we're putting down about 23% because he's under contract right now using a VA loan. He's putting down 23%. He does not have to, but that's what he chose, getting him a little bit of a better monthly payment and interest rate, and it's kind of what he wants to do because he just sold his home in Texas. Now, even if you're putting 0% down, you still have closing costs. I cannot stress this enough. It is not $0 down, it's 0% down. You still have closing costs on a VA home loan. Certain things can be financed in, like your VA funding fee if you've used your VA loan multiple times. I don't believe it's used on the first when somebody's purchasing their first home using VA, but it significantly increases when you use it multiple times. If you're also over a certain percentage of disability from the military, that's also waived as well. So you still have closing costs. Your transfer tax escrows and prorations, you've got your homeowner's insurance, got the lender fees because they charge you fees, they need to make some money, so they're charging you fees there as well. No matter what mortgage lender you're using, you're going to be paying fees. You've got potentially realtor fees if you have to pay any commission or admin fee or anything like that. There are things associated with purchasing the property. In our area, it really depends just based on which school district for taxes and stuff like that you're looking in, because there's a very wide range there. But a lot of the times our clients are paying anywhere from 4% to 7% of the purchase price in closing costs when they're buying a property. So if you're competing, you might not be able to ask the seller to cover your closing costs. You're probably going to have to look for a home that's been on the market for a while. So you can truly buy a home using your VA home loan for pretty much $0 down. We've had clients do it and actually get money back at settlement. So it's definitely possible. It's just not the most common. So if you're using your VA home loan, count for $0 down payment unless you want to put additional down and your closing costs. If you need to figure out what those are, reach out to us. We'd be happy to introduce you to a local mortgage lender that we work with a good bit and takes care of a lot of our VA home loans in Pennsylvania. Now, I also want to talk about how to avoid property tax in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the few states that does do this. There's a handful that do, and we are gladly and proudly one of them. Is for 100% disabled or more military members that are able to use their VA home loan, you can get and waive all of your property taxes. If it's $5,000, you can get it waived. If it's $10,000, you can get it waived. You do have to check your eligibility, so you do have to talk with the Veterans Affairs offices and the medical offices and stuff like that, and have your documents saying that due to the military, you are 100% or more disabled, because you can actually be more than 100% disabled, and you served in an act of or in a time of war or conflict. Now, there's not many times in history where there wasn't wartime or conflict, so you can look up those dates if you are curious. I've only had one person ever out of I don't even know how many VA home loans that we've done that did not serve during one of those times and could not do it. So how that works is you do have to apply for it. Once you're going through and buying the home, they can't tell if you're going to get it or not, even though you're pretty much guaranteed to if you're 100% or more disabled and you have the paperwork saying so that you have the right to waive your taxes. They can't tell and they can't account for that just to be safe with their underwriting. So you have to cover any prorations of taxes and tax escrows in the beginning. So for the first year, you're likely going to be paying them. But after that, you can get it waived and not have to worry about paying the property taxes as long as you file and everything looks good and you're approved. So in Pennsylvania, you can get away and save so much money on property taxes if you have that disability option. And you can also, again, if you're a little bit lower on the disability ranking system that they have, or, continuing to go up still at 100 or over, you can waive that funding fee, which is very nice also. How it's going to work is once you get those waived, your payment gets sliced down significantly. If you're paying $400 a month in taxes, $4,800 a year for your taxes, you're saving a ton of money, and it's very, very significant. So you can knock that completely off of your mortgage payment, and that is a huge reason so many people are flocking to Pennsylvania with their VA home loans and some other states close by as well. If we can help you purchase a home in Pennsylvania, Maryland, or really anywhere with a VA loan or any other loan, feel free to reach out to us. My team or I would be happy to help or happy to introduce you to somebody that's familiar with your type of loan or the financing that you would like. Feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is on the screen, and you can also go to Collinboyer.net and book a time to chat with me. Thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. It helps out with the algorithm and gets this to other people that might not be as educated as you are now after watching the video. Like and subscribe, please. Please, it helps a ton. And don't forget to reach out to me, Collinboyer.net. See you guys on the next video.